Hello, hello, and welcome to unbelievably the 50th episode of the Accountant Success Secrets podcast. Celebration of that, Philippa has allowed me to welcome you first. I'm Mark Lee of Bookmark Lee.
And I'm Philippa Haynes of Insight 101. Each week on the podcast, we showcase another accountant or bookkeeper who has been running their own practice for a good few years and who we think can inspire and encourage other accountants and bookkeepers in practice around the UK.
We ask them to share their stories, including the highs, the lows, and what they've learned along the way. Our aim is to provide some fundamental insights for you, our loyal listener. You know who you are. And if you'd like to share your story in a similar way, do please get in touch with Philippa or me. We're now taking bookings for April and May.
Well done, Mark. It said Mark on me there, but you thought on your feet there. So today we are delighted to introduce our 41st interviewee, Domini Atkin, who is ICB qualified and runs Limeflower Bookkeeping, which she started in 2005. Based in Royston, Hertfordshire, or near Royston, and working remotely with a long-term part-time assistant, Domini recently rebranded with a shiny new website, clarity around her ideal client, and a new slogan of Find Your Power. Today she looks for fun in her life, including gorilla trekking, yes indeed, whilst pushing herself in her business and her personal life. Her mantra whilst running, I get to do this, channels her energies, and she works hard towards pushing and testing herself mentally and physically to find more than the average 40% capacity. Welcome, Domini. Does that sound like you?
Yeah, it does sound like me. Yeah, welcome. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're very, very welcome. Just before we start, though, a word about our sponsor, Pinnacle Global, a trusted outsourcing partner with well over 120 clients across the UK and Ireland. Pinnacle's CEO, Mayank Pandya, is a chartered accountant based in London, and he has a passion to encourage innovation and excellence in the accounting profession. Pinnacle has offices in the UK and offshore delivery centres across India, employing over 250 high-quality staff. With a strong focus on quality assurance, Pinnacle has helped many UK accounting firms to scale their capacity and operations. To find out more, please visit www.pinnacleoss.co.uk. You'll also find the link online wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Indeed. And then also supporting the podcast is the Tax Advice Network. Their website enables accountants to choose specific specialist tax advisors for general tax support or for help across any of over 100 areas of tax. It's free to use, and you can check it out at findataxadvisor.online, where you can also register to get their weekly tax tips written especially for general practitioner accountants.
Thank you for that. Nice to hear somebody else stumbling over the words
Yeah.
I normally stumble over. Back to Domini. As you know, we aim to keep the podcast to around 30 minutes, and we do that by focusing the discussion around just a few questions. And I'll start by asking you, how and why did you come to set up your bookkeeping practice?
Well, I had a long-term job with a local company, and I'd worked in their office for years and years and years. And when my children were young, growing up, because I had children young, and then their bookkeeper actually emigrated, and she said, "Did I want to take on the role?" And so I did my qualifications through the ICB. And just started working for them as doing their bookkeeping as well as their office management. And then I just decided that I could probably earn more money doing it freelance. So I just took a little bit of a risk and jumped ship and retained them as a client for the bookkeeping, and then just kind of, branched out from there. So it kind of went from there, really.
That is brilliant. So just going back a stage then, had you any previous interest in bookkeeping before the opportunity arose?
Not really.
Did you think
I wasn't very good at maths at school?
Well,
shouldn't really say that.
Don't tell anybody, neither was I.
But no, I did kind of then just I got more interested in it as it went along, and so I just kind of like fell into it by chance, to be honest with
Most
you.
people do. It's
Yeah,
amazing. Accountants and bookkeepers say
yeah,
they were looking for something when their kids were young, or most of them would say they're not very good at maths, or they didn't even enjoy
yeah,
math. So it's
yeah.
just one of those professions that people fall into.
Yeah, no, it just kind of happened. And what I enjoy is seeing the businesses that I work for grow and how they progress. It's quite nice to get involved, especially if you get involved from the beginning with a new client that's just started their business, and then you watch them grow as you go along with them on that kind of journey, if you like. It sounds a bit cheesy, but it's true.
It is very true. And building up your own practice, where did the work come from? Did you have to build
Well,
relationships with accountants?
yeah, I did have some good relationships with accountants. Um, and I wrote to lots of accountants as well and said that this is what I was doing, and wrote to local businesses, because back then you didn't do so much email like you do now. So
Yeah, of
I
course.
just sent letters around to all the local businesses in Royston, and I got a few jobs that way, a few clients that way, and and then from there it was more like recommendations, referrals, because all the local businesses knew each other, they were all friends, so they'd recommend you. So it kind of built up from there, really.
Did you get any grief from other existing bookkeepers who were doing the work that you were effectively taking over?
Uh, Not really, no. No, they're quite nice. Yeah, I do know a few local bookkeepers, and we all get on, and actually it's quite good to have that community because we kind of bounce ideas off each other. Or we've got a problem, a query, we speak to each other about it, because you don't know every chapter and verse. So you have to sometimes you want to talk to another bookkeeper about it. So what would you do about this? And it's quite handy to have that relationship with
Yeah,
with the
totally.
local
I know
bookkeepers.
it's really interesting. I mean, we've had quite a few people come on who started like 20 years ago, like you, and people were saying, well, we advertised in the local paper and things like that. So,
Yeah,
things really have changed, and it's
yeah,
interesting, obviously, that we'll talk about your new website and how you're
yeah,
kind of moving forward with that. But actually, you've survived and done
yeah,
really well for 20 years based on referrals. So that's not,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't sniff
It
at
was
that, can you?
No, you can't. Yeah, I mean, not every client is a great client, but most of it worked out really well. They're just
Yeah.
all local
So what
business
so what
people.
things have you learned along the way? I mean, there's things around how to manage people and how to manage clients and costing, and what sorts of things have kind of hit
Um,
you?
what have I learned along the way? What's a good client and what's a bad client? Not every business owner is necessarily good at running a business.
Yeah. How have
They
you
haven't got the
spotted
right
that? I
work
mean,
ethic.
yeah, I mean, because when we've talked before, because I mean, transparency here, you are a client of mine, so I know
Yeah,
more about you than Mark. But when we did our sort of fact finding, one of the things that you were talking about all the time was working hard, and
yeah.
that's a really kind of big deal for you, and that you sort of repeated that working hard. So what is it about some clients that just, they're not the ideal client for you?
Well, you can just tell if they're just kind of not pushing themselves, and they're not. That you can just tell from their work ethic that they're if their heart's not in it, from their slow responses to your queries, their not concerned about keeping up to date with their the legislation,
Yeah.
HMRC submissions and things like that. So you do get a feel for how they are as you go along. You think, well, actually, they're not really the right client for me. But I've been quite like most of my clients are not like that. Well, I've had a few bad ones in the past, but you soon manage to work out, who they are. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then the other thing I've learned along the way, which is a bit boring, and I don't want to talk about it for long, is just speeding up software processes, because
Mhm.
there's always new things coming out, so you have to keep on top of that, even though you do have to do your research with the different softwares. But that's
Yeah.
quite boring to talk about, isn't it?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's actually quite important, and it's one of those that we do talk about, because
Yeah,
I think there are people who are starting their businesses, and there's a lot of stuff coming at them all the time. So it's always good to learn from somebody who's obviously started on paper and Excel spreadsheets and that sort of thing, and then moved on to the software. What sorts of what are you using now, and how?
I use Xero mainly, but years ago when I first started, it was Sage. Sage was the leading software really in our industry. I don't think I'd even heard of Xero 20 years ago, and now I think Xero now have taken over. I still use Sage for some clients just because that's what they prefer. If they but I'm trying to switch people to Xero. I just find it so much easier in the cloud. I never thought I'd say that, but it's not for everyone. I've had a client that used Xero that she really didn't like it, and she was an accountant and she really didn't like it. She much preferred Sage. So it just depends. But you have to try and embrace new software and try and give it a go, because there's always so many different ones on the market.
So
and there's all the add-ons and extensions and plugins.
We do those. I use those now as well. There's HubDoc and Dext, and and they all help with the and there's auto entry as well. That's another one. So I do try and move forward with the times.
Well, I think you're clearly succeeding there. You said something about recognizing that not every business owner is good at running a business or likely to be a good client. So have you turned people away and found a way of doing it?
Not as such turn them away. I've just realised as I've kind of been working for them that they're not really the right client for me, because I just end up getting really frustrated that I can't ever get to a point where I'm completing their accounts, because they just don't provide you with the information, and when they do give you the stuff, only half the information's there. So you kind of then just part company and say it's not working out.
Good for you. I wish more bookkeepers and accountants were prepared to take that step. It's a challenge, because if you're getting a decent fee, you're saying that money. And
exactly. I mean, I wasn't at first, but you get more confident as you go along. At first, I would you'd do any bookkeeping for any client really, and then you get more confident and you grow your client base, and then you kind of you can then do that, can't you?
I mean, you were talking, we had a chat yesterday about the podcast, and we were talking about mistakes, because that's kind of the next question that we usually ask, when it kind of leads on from what you've just said now, which is one that everybody says around pricing or costing. And you were saying, initially, you made that age-old mistake of sort of doing, was it hourly rates? How did it work?
The hourly rate fees and everything, and then most people are on a fixed fee now. Most clients are on a fixed fee, but it's just getting the fees right, and then it's always an uncomfortable conversation, isn't it, about money? I always find it uncomfortable to talk, but you've got to do it, and you just have to review them regularly, because otherwise you can't then suddenly make a big jump. If you haven't reviewed your fees and increased your fees for 5 years, and then suddenly it jumps right up, they're going to say, well, hang on a minute.
I was talking to a mentoring client yesterday who said he puts fees up by at least 5% every year.
Really?
And when he registered for VAT, and he knew he was going to be registering for VAT, he explained to clients that the fees were going up by 20%. Not all of his clients were VAT registered. But he had a smaller than he would have liked increase that year, but continued to put them up by 5% each year thereafter. And if you wait 5 years, and I've had mentoring clients who haven't put their fees up for 5 years, and we've talked through processes and strategies to sort that out, both in the short term and in the longer term, because, as you say, Domini, people don't like having the conversation about fees, and it's also related to confidence, as you said just now, because they're worried that they're going to lose the clients. And as I'm sure you've found, the better the relationship you have with clients, so it's not just give me your papers, I'll turn them into a set of accounts, or return or whatever, and that there's a relationship and you care about helping the clients grow, do things right, avoid problems with the revenue, etc., they're less likely to just try and find somebody else because they
Yeah,
enjoy,
exactly. As
appreciate the
long as you
service.
provide a good service and you do the work and you're reliable and you're efficient, they're unlikely to then turn around when you put your feet up and say, oh, actually, I'm going to go and look somewhere else, because they haven't got the time, and they like you and they can't, they can't be bothered
So
really.
tell us about the realization when you realized that actually you needed to change your kind of pricing strategy, because there was a sort of pinch point, wasn't there, that you talked about?
Yeah, it's only really been in the past few years. And you also, what I used to do is I used to kind of look at the business, and if the businesses I was working for weren't doing particularly well, they're having a bit of you don't really feel like you can put your fee up to clients like that, because they're struggling a little bit, especially with lockdown. You couldn't, even entertain the idea of anything, and I hadn't put my fees up for a while before lockdown came along, so I was a bit stuck. But yeah, the pinch point was probably for me when I started doing fixed value pricing about, when was that? About 4 or 5 years ago. And then I thought, actually, yeah, I need to start reviewing these my accounts more regularly. And what your the other thing I learned was the services you provide or agree to provide at the beginning, and how those parameters might change, because you might end up doing more that you hadn't agreed to, and
Scope
you might end
creep.
up doing debt chasing because they don't want to do it, and and that's all takes up extra time, and then you haven't factored it into your fee. So you just have to be a bit careful of that, but you don't want to be so regimented and inflexible that you want to, it's like, oh, I'm not going to do that for you. So you have to be a bit careful.
And you were talking a little bit about work-life balance, which I think we all do, but you were
Yeah.
talking very much about, because you were feeing, charging by the hour, you were working all the hours there were, and then realized that actually your life you didn't have a life, and then of course you had sort of family issues, and it all sort of changed.
That's right. Yeah, no, I just had so I was just working really long hours. I don't do that anymore, unless I've got a particularly busy month, but I just used to think that that's how it had to be to keep on top of everything. And then my son's dad died a few years ago, and that gave me a bit of perspective really into having more of a work-life balance.
Yeah.
Because you just think, well, actually, yeah, whilst I do love my job, it's not the be all and end all. There's more to life, and you just want to go out and have a bit of fun as well. So
Absolutely.
I just cut down my hours and charged a bit more money, and now I have a better work-life balance.
And more income, and you now have an incentive to be more efficient. I'm sure you've always been efficient, but one of the fundamental problems with hourly charging for services like bookkeeping, accounting, or recurring services is there's no incentive to be more efficient, because if you do it faster, your fee goes down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
I know.
how does and people forget that. So once you've got the experience and the confidence to price the service you're delivering, and when there's a bit of scope creep, so when the fee needs to go up to reflect that, and you're prepared to have those conversations with clients, life gets easier, and you can have that better balance between life and business. I'm sure that's what you found, Domini.
Yeah, no, I definitely did. Yeah, no, I think, I think I've got to a point now where I've got that bit sussed, the work-life balance bit sussed.
So why did you come to me then and think about your brand and kind of, refreshing your
okay, good question. So what happened was I went VAT registered and with limited, because so I reached a VAT threshold and went VAT registered a few years ago, and then that just tied in nicely with going limited to be a bit more of a professional outfit, if you like. And then from there, I just thought I really, even though I'd had referrals, but keeping referrals all throughout the entire time I was a sole trader, I then got a few new clients in London, further afield, and I just thought it'd be nice to have a bit more of a brand recognition, if you like, to kind of I can't think of the right words, but
Yeah.
just to kind of have
Well,
a bit more of a
you felt it would
almost
give you a bit more
professional
credibility.
image. Yeah, because I did a few fee quotes for potential new clients, and they said to me, "Where's your website?" And I said, "Well, I haven't got one." And I just felt a bit of an idiot because I didn't have a website, and I didn't think I needed a website. So then I went to Philippa. I think I was on one of your webinars through the ICB, wasn't I? I
Probably,
think.
yeah.
And you were talking about marketing, which I'm really rubbish at, and networking. And I thought, well, I've never really go to these networking events. And talking about how to promote yourself as a bookkeeper, because you're not selling a product.
No.
How do you promote yourself? So, and I didn't know how to do it. I just knew how to do the work, the actual accounting side of it, but I didn't know how to promote my business. So
But
then I
that's
got in touch
really
with you.
that's really important though, and I mean it's
And very common. Very
very
common.
Yeah.
common, and the
Yes.
way that you've said it is really straightforward. But I think a lot of people can identify with that, because you've
Yeah.
had a business for 20 years. It's
Yeah.
just
So I
that
didn't think I
things
needed
have
to.
changed.
That's the thing. I
Yeah,
didn't think I needed to kind of have a website because I was busy. I was filling my day. It was a full-time job plus my employee. And then I just thought actually it would be nice to kind of get some other clients on board. And so so that's
And
why
I
I went
think
through this process with you.
Yeah, and I think that's the key point here, is that bookkeepers and accountants who've been successfully doing the work for years and winning the odd client here or there, and there are loads that either don't have websites or have very old, outdated websites,
Yeah.
and you don't even have, forgive me, much of a profile on LinkedIn either. So
No, no.
you're,
she will
you are,
have. She will
yeah,
have.
I will
but
have
you
some. I'm just rubbish at writing things about myself. And
this is the thing, you see, if the referrals are coming in and it's the type of work you want to do and the people are paying you the fees that you want for the type of work that you enjoy doing, then the odd referral or two coming in that you're picking up, you don't need those things. However, if you want to appear more credible to other potentially bigger, more, if I could say, professional clients
yeah,
who just want confirmation that you are who they were told you were.
yeah,
And seeing it on a website, seeing it on a LinkedIn profile can make a huge difference and
yeah,
give you much more confidence at
Yeah.
the outset. And what none of us know is how many prospective referrals and prospective clients haven't contacted us because they couldn't get any confirmation about who we are
yeah.
online.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's
So
right. I think these people just wanted to read a bit of a profile about me
Yeah.
before they made a decision.
so now we have one. I mean, we just to sort of fill the listeners in, and we've got people from all over. We've got two from
All right.
India, one from West London, somebody else from Ireland. It's all going on here, Domini.
Oh,
You're
okay.
bringing them in, but we actually did kind of a process to find out a little bit more about you, and not so that you're at the front and center of your business or your website, but at least to kind of understand your ethos and how you can translate that into how you work, how you actually do your business, how you do business. And that's the important bit, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
what was the process like, just out of interest for you? And don't say it was
Yeah.
awful.
No, it was interesting. It was interesting the things that you picked up on about me being a bit rebellious in my young years, never taken the easy route in life, and
Yeah.
and now I've got this 40% rule ethos in my head going on through my David Goggins book that I read.
So
I
tell
told
me
you
about
about,
this 40%
and you
thing.
jumped on.
I've never come across it before. I
Oh,
don't
have
think.
you heard? Well, for some people might not have heard of him. He's now. Have you heard of David Goggins or not? He's a
No.
motivational speaker in the US.
Right.
He used to be a Navy SEAL, and I just read his book, and it was just really inspirational. Basically, long story short, he didn't think he was going to get into the Navy SEALs. You only get 2 chances, and he ended up running this, taping his legs up because he had broken feet, taping his feet up to run this marathon, because otherwise he wouldn't have met the criteria, or their kind of, their whatever you call it, their process to get in.
Yeah.
Anyway, got in against all odds. And what he says is in his book is that most people only work to 40% of their capability. And I
Right.
thought that was really interesting. That he's a bit nuts, to be honest. Some of the things he does, he runs ultra marathons now for charity. He is
Oh,
a bit
good.
bonkers. But what he's saying is you should always push yourself that little bit harder, because. And I didn't really think about that until he said that, oh my God, most people in their working life only push themselves to 40%, only work to 40% of their capabilities. So
Oh, I
they
could
don't
believe.
set
I
out their
could believe.
comfort zone.
Yeah.
So
And
push yourself
actually,
beyond that. So push yourself beyond that then. So how does that and everything else that came out of your conversations with Philippa, how does that translate into making your practice unique, or singles
Well,
you out from others?
well, basically, that's what I try to do in my work. Well, not just in my work, actually, in my personal life as well. Because I do like my running, so when I try, in my hobbies,
I mean,
and I
you're
just
running.
try. Go on.
Where do you run though? It's not just like down the road, is it?
Well, no, I've done a half marathon in the Himalayas, which was of years, but that was before I'd even heard of David Goggins. But I just kind of joined a running club and then did this half marathon for charity. And then I did one on the Cornish coastline last year that was brutal. That was really tough. But I just try to apply his philosophy to my working life and personal life, and that's what I'm attracted to clients that take risks and do things and push themselves as
And
well.
is that what you're using to sort of highlight what makes your practice different
Yeah,
from others?
yeah, I
How does
guess
that
so.
translate?
Yeah, I guess I am.
Well,
Yeah.
it's go on.
I was going to say, how is that apparent in the way you communicate with prospective clients? What is it you're saying that appeals to them?
Well, I think once they get to know you as a person, and then you kind of tell them a bit of your background and story, then it kind of just comes out that way. And then if
Yeah.
you click and they've got similar experiences, I've got a client now, a recently new client that's got a love of running. So now we always talk about running, and I've told her about this David Goggins guy. I said, you've got to read his book. I said, he's mad, but it'll make you feel better when you're doing so yeah, just kind of like, it just comes out when you chat to people, doesn't it? I think.
But also, go on. Your website
just-
will be very much about that. But also, as you've said, it was a bit like, Kieran. Do you remember Stride Accountancy, Mark?
Yes,
He was
yeah.
pulling in people who liked a certain book. Do you remember that? And so
Yes.
he
Oh,
was
yes.
finding
That's
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kieran Phelan.
Yeah. He
Oh,
was finding
really?
his
What
ideal
was his
clients.
book?
I can't remember. It wasn't a book that he'd written. He'd almost set up like a Facebook group, and he was recommending certain books, and he used that almost like a quickfire. So it was,
Oh, really?
if you like this book, then you're probably going to like the way that I work. It was,
Yeah, I think if
so
you mention, that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I've mentioned the book to a few people, and some people you can tell they're completely not interested. It hasn't resonated with them at all. When I said, "Oh God, he taped his legs up, he taped his feet up and ran on broken feet," and some people it just like there's nothing. And I've been like, "Oh my God, really? Who's this guy?" And then they kind of they're interested in him. Like I'm promoting him a little bit here.
If you or anybody listening want to listen to hear what Kieran said, it was Kieran James, Stride Accountant.
that's
Yeah.
right.
It was podcast episode 36. So
Oh, okay.
It's a
I'll make a
really,
note of that.
it's a really inspirational listen. Actually, I mean, Kieran
Yeah.
is a fantastic strategist. He's a really interesting guy, and again
Okay.
fell into accounting
Yeah.
just because he had no job, and he was like sofa surfing at his kind of parents-in-law, I think it was, and he overheard them saying he was useless and when's he going to get a job, and it went from there, didn't it,
Oh,
Mark?
really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'll have to
But
give that one a listen.
yeah, so I mean, it's really this idea of finding people via a mindset rather than a sector
Yeah.
specific or a kind of size of
Yes.
business, because saying, oh, we talk to small and medium-sized businesses is kind of that's
That's
not really saying
everyone.
anything.
Bit
Yeah.
generic. Yeah.
So if you can use something like, even this, it does sound silly, but if it resonates with you, and obviously if it's going to be a part of your marketing, which it is, and that 40% extra is going to be really important, then it's a conversation starter, and it's a sort
Yeah.
of a starter for your social media as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So just finally, I suppose, before we start wrapping up, any other secrets to your success, secrets of your practice that haven't come out from what you've said so far?
Secrets to my success. Oh goodness.
Persistence.
Sorry. Persistence,
Persistence.
patience,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess. Integrity, and just being
yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
Just being nice to
Really
people and
important.
friendly and polite, which you don't
Yeah.
always feel like doing.
No,
Yeah,
very underrated, but crucial qualities there.
yeah,
Thank you for
exactly.
that. Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today. As always, we could carry on talking, and it would have been lovely to do so. But Dominique, can you just share your contact details so that any listeners who want to get in touch can do so?
All right. Yeah. It's Domini, DOMINI, at Limeflower, LIMEFLOWER.co.uk is my email.
Lovely.
And I have my website is being launched soon, hopefully in the next few days,
It
which
is
is www.limeflower.co.uk, I think.
Yeah, you should
brilliant.
be confident on that one.
And you can find me on LinkedIn, but it's not a very good profile at the minute, but it will
No.
be.
So thank you very much, Domini. So let's
Thank
give
you.
our own details now. Mark, how can listeners find out more about you and your business?
Online everywhere. I'm Bookmark Lee. Even the business card is a bookmark. Most of the accountants I support have been running their own practice for a while without co-directors or partners. They've reached a stage where they recognise that it would be helpful to have a supportive ear, somebody to bounce ideas around with, and to get clarity around their plans, challenges, and key decisions. And I love hearing them tell me how much better motivated or excited they feel after our one-to-one conversations. I spoke to a prospective client yesterday afternoon who, I say prospective client because everything he said made me think, actually, you don't need me, or you're not going to value the sort of advice that I give. He doesn't want to grow his practice, and that's fine. I never push people to do that. But he kept telling me that he's tried many ways to get on top of everything and to develop his action plan, but he feels he needs to be accountable for that,
Right.
almost as if he wants somebody just to sort of, he wants to pay somebody to say, you've been a naughty boy, you haven't done it yet. And I'm not sure that that would be a great relationship. So maybe he'll join the Soul Practice Club, but again, I'm not sure that would be right for him either. We'll see what happens. I explain all that to make clear that these conversations, he loved it. He was very pleased with some of the advice and tips that I shared with him. These conversations don't always lead to business for me, but at least I feel I've been helpful and constructive and honest. So I'm always up to have an initial conversation with no obligation, no strings, and no pushy sales techniques. And Philippa, how can listeners find out more about you?
So I'm on LinkedIn. And also you can find me on my website, insight101.co.uk. If you'd like to have a chat, we can set up a discovery call. That would be brilliant. And, I help support bookkeepers and accountants to stand out. And that means knowing what their story is and how they can serve up their message and appeal to their ideal client in a better way. So you've heard a little bit about Domini today and how she's kind of pulled all of that together. Not only has she done 20 years of kind of referral marketing, if you like, but now she's moving into kind of marketing herself and her business. If you're at that stage, then it would be really good to have a chat. Anyway, I think we need to speak to our sponsor about our sponsors before we go, don't we? Although that says it's you. You're meant to be saying that, but I can say it. Just before we go, gosh, that was seamless, wasn't it? Our thanks again to the sponsors of the podcast, Pinnacle Global Group, your trusted outsourcing partner. Do check out their website and let their CEO, Mayank, know you heard about Pinnacle Global and the Accountant Success Secrets podcast.
And thanks to the Tax Advice Network, the easiest way for accountants to reach specialist tax advisors. Remember, there's no charge for using the website, findataxadvisor.online. You just pay the tax advisor that you choose to use once you've agreed terms with them. You can also access from the website their weekly tax tips written especially for general practitioner accountants.
We've changed places because I'm doing your bit now. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share the love online, subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or YouTube, and let us have your feedback too. It all helps to broaden the reach of the podcast. Do also please contact us if you would love to appear on the podcast, or if there's somebody else you'd love to guest. If you think that they would be a brilliant guest, then please do let us know.
Lovely, thanks. And do reach out and connect with Philippa and myself on LinkedIn if we're not really connected there, and follow the podcast page on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Thank you very much, Philippa, as ever. Thanks to our wonderful guest, Domini. Well done. That was all fabulous.
Thank you.
Pleasure. And until next time on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast, or anywhere else we might meet online or in real life, bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.